From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Happy Friday and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Tech giant Microsoft suffers a global outage affecting thousands of flights and billions of banking transactions. Microsoft says it identified the software glitch and released an update to fix the malfunction. Ukraine claims its aerial and maritime drones struck Russian military assets in occupied Crimea. Kyiv says it also struck a Russian Navy command center in the overnight attack. The death toll in Bangladesh rises to 50 as student protesters clash with police over quotas in government jobs. The current system allocates 30% of the jobs to relatives of veterans from Bangladesh's 1971 War of Independence. Riots erupt after an angry mob torches a double-decker bus and a police vehicle in the city of Leeds in England. This after social services remove 4 children from the home of an immigrant family. And Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says the United States is witnessing a crippling drug crisis. Obrador accuses the United States of blaming its drug crisis on immigrants. We begin right here in the United States. Former President Donald Trump addressed the Republican National Convention on the final night in Milwaukee, Wisconsin last night. This was his first speech since he survived the assassination attempt at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania less than a week ago. And what is now the longest acceptance speech on record, clocking in at an astounding 92 minutes, a bandaged Donald Trump formally accepted the presidential nomination. He described what it felt like when the bullet struck his ear right before being smothered by Secret Service agents.
I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight."
The former president also discussed his top electoral issue, illegal immigration, saying he handed President Joe Biden the strongest border in American history. And he once again promised the largest deportation operation in the history of the United States to end the border nightmare.
Is an invasion indeed, and this administration does absolutely nothing to stop them. They're coming from prisons, they're coming from jails, they're coming from mental institutions and insane asylums. But we become a dumping ground for the rest of the world, which is laughing at us. They think we're stupid, and they can't believe that they're getting away with what they're getting away with, but they're not going to be getting away with it for long. That's what I can tell you.
The Republican presidential nominee also touched upon the economy, pledging to cut taxes and lower inflation without providing any specific details.
Under this administration, our current administration, groceries are up 57%, gasoline is up 60 and 70%, mortgage rates have quadrupled. And the fact is, it doesn't matter what they are because you can't get the money anyway. You can't buy houses. You're paying too much. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. We gave you the biggest one, as I said. We're going to give you more, and it's going to lead to tremendous growth. We want growth in our country. That's what's going to pay off our debt.
The Republican convention attendees also saw former First Lady Melania Trump making a rare appearance. She's rarely been seen or heard from in public throughout her husband's campaign until he was shot just 6 days ago. The former president has also pointed out his vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance, who was sitting just next to Melania Trump.
On this journey, I am deeply honored to be joined by my amazing wife, Melania. And Melania, thank you very much. You also did something really beautiful, a letter to America calling for national unity, and it really took the Republican Party by surprise. I will tell you, it was beautiful. But I'm thrilled to have a new friend and partner fighting by my side, the next Vice President of the United States, the current Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, and his incredible wife, Usha.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump accused President Biden of acting as a dictator and weaponizing the justice system against him.
We must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country.
Now, the former president was joined by his family on stage as he ended his acceptance speech that oftentimes bordered on rambling. And for many who watched, expecting to see a changed man, witness the same Donald Trump that descended that gilded escalator just 9 years ago. A politician still consumed with grievance shaped by perceived and conjured slights. And staying in the United States, as President Joe Biden isolates and recovers from COVID-19, heavy hitters in the Democratic Party are voicing their concerns about his re-election campaign. And joining them are reportedly former President Barack Obama and former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who are having second thoughts about his candidacy. Additionally, several Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, are also reportedly mounting pressure on the commander-in-chief to drop out of the presidential race. Our next report gets you the details about the crisis within the Democratic Party.
The 2024 U.S. presidential race is witnessing a major turning point, and a lot of it can be attributed to two key events.
I understand her passion.
One is last week's assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The Republican escaped with mostly an ear injury, but he has resurrected himself after the shooting attack. Trump has become a hero for fellow Republicans. But the second key event occurred last month. In June, Trump went head-to-head with current President Joe Biden, and the presidential debate turned out to be a disaster for the incumbent. Since then, Biden has been facing criticism from voters and Democrats. Several Democrat leaders in Congress have voiced their concerns. They want Joe Biden to step down from the presidential race. And joining them are some of the party's heavy hitters. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is one of them. Pelosi has reportedly told Biden privately to quit the race. The reports further say that Pelosi held candid conversations with Biden where she told him that he would not be able to win the election. As Biden faces criticism from his allies, his biggest supporter too is having second thoughts. Former President Barack Obama has reportedly said that Biden can't win. This would make Obama the most influential Democrat to lose faith in Biden. Obama has urged Biden to reconsider the candidacy. The reports have raised alarm bells among Democrats and voters. Political experts feel that senior Democrats backing away from Biden is a serious matter of concern.
I think that's a big deal, especially for someone like Nancy Pelosi, to have her conversation come out in the news, even though it didn't come directly from her. She's very much somebody who likes to do things sort of quietly and in the background and then have a very unified front. She was always that way as Speaker of the House. So, probably rightfully so, people have been reading into the fact that this is public, as, she maybe didn't get as far as she wanted with the president in that conversation, and now there's greater public pressure.
Amid growing voices for Biden to quit the presidential race, some senior officials in the Biden campaign have indicated that the president is slowly coming to terms with his fate. Biden, who's currently isolating at his beach house in Delaware, has reportedly called for a high-level Democrat meeting. He's reportedly even open to suggestions of Kamala Harris replacing him on the ballot box. Meanwhile, other senior Democrats like Chuck Schumer have privately told Biden that they are withdrawing their support. Despite calls for Biden to quit the presidential race, replacing the president on the ballot box would be a disaster for the Democratic Party. Additionally, it would be a logistical nightmare because the rules of the Democratic Party are clear. Biden cannot be replaced from the ballot. That's because he's already won the primaries. The only way he can be replaced is if he resigns voluntarily.
And now to Europe, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky recently addressed the challenges of potentially working with Donald Trump if, in fact, he's reelected. In an exclusive interview with a British media house, President Zelensky showed his readiness to collaborate with any U.S. leader. Another report also mentioned that associates of Donald Trump and the Ukrainian president have also discussed holding a phone call. Now, this would be the first conversation since Donald Trump left office in 2021. Now, time and again, Donald Trump has boldly claimed that he would end the war before taking office if, in fact, he's reelected. However, he hasn't provided any details on how he intends to manage that.
If one person in the world, and this person, Donald Trump, can stop the war during 24 hours. The question is, what the price?
The Ukrainian president is currently in Britain to meet the newly elected Prime Minister Keir Starmer and members of the European political community. The British Prime Minister has pledged over $3 billion in aid and affirmed his commitment to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Meanwhile, on the front lines, the Ukrainian military continues to face a shortage in ammunition and manpower. And despite being promised F-16 fighter jets from allies, President Zelensky noted that their delayed arrival was giving Russia more time to maintain aerial dominance.
Need very strong support from Prime Minister. We need this decision about long-distance weapon, long range, to use it. We need it very much. They targeting our hospitals, schools, universities. Like I said to you, they targeting our just civilians. We just want to answer to the exactly to the point where from there they target us.
Now, outgoing NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg also emphasized the extreme importance of the United States supporting Ukraine. His remarks came after Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance vigorously opposed providing aid to Kyiv and strongly advocated against the approval of $61 billion in new U.S. military aid for Ukraine earlier this year. Donald Trump and his running mate argue that continuous funding for the war in Ukraine is unsustainable for the United States. Now, as the war continues, President Zelensky's resilience and strategic moves continue to shape Ukraine's fight for sovereignty. But it remains to be seen how the November election will actually shape America's policy toward Ukraine if Donald Trump is reelected. And now in the Middle East, the Yemen-based Houthis have claimed responsibility for a deadly drone attack on Israel that killed one person and injured at least 10. The drone exploded in central Tel Aviv, just 100 meters from the embassy of the United States in the early hours of Friday. Now the Iran-backed group says its latest attack was in response to Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza.
The drone forces at the Houthi armed forces, with Allah's help, carried out a qualitative military operation that targeted one of the important targets in the occupied Jaffa area, called as Tel Aviv by the Israelis. The operation was carried out using a new drone aircraft named Jaffa, capable of bypassing the enemy's air defense systems and undetectable by radars. The operation successfully achieved its objectives.
The Houthis also called Tel Aviv a primary target within the range of their weapons and warned they could target Israel's military bases in the future.
The Houthi armed forces declare the occupied Jaffa area as an unsafe area and a primary target for our weapons. We will focus targeting the Zionist enemy's internal front and reaching its strategic depth. As the Houthi armed forces announced this qualitative operation, they confirm that they have a bank of targets in the occupied Palestine, including sensitive military and security targets, and will continue with Allah's help to strike those targets in response to the enemy's massacres and daily crimes against our brethren in the Gaza Strip.
The explosion took place hours after Israel killed a senior Hezbollah commander in southern Lebanon. Like the Houthis, Hezbollah is also backed by Iran and engaged in attacking Israeli forces to show support for Hamas. Meanwhile, the Israeli military said that the drone was detected by an Israeli aerial defense system. However, it was not intercepted due to human error. Israel also said that the drone was made by Iran and accused Tehran of funding and arming its proxies in the region. Israeli officials added that the drone was armed with a warhead and crashed into an apartment building, killing a 50-year-old man.
I was here with my friends on the 16th floor of the hotel, and when we came out to the balcony, we had fun, we had some wine, and suddenly initially I thought it was a plane or a pilot that lost control of his plane, and suddenly I see a green flag and a vehicle of war.
I happen to be living presently, because I just moved to Tel Aviv, in the hostel hotel that has the casualty from who works there. I know very well and spoke to him every day, Yevgeny, and it's pretty sad that he's dead.
The Israeli army has now increased patrols to protect the country's skies. Now concerns are in fact growing that the drone attack may open a new war front for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is already fighting Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah on the Israel-Lebanon border. And finally, Meta Platforms faces a major setback in Brazil as the government halts its artificial intelligence-driven programs over user privacy concerns. The country's National Data Protection Authority has suspended Meta's use of personal data for training its AI, citing significant privacy risk. The tech giant's ambitious AI plans are now on hold, highlighting the global tension between innovation and data protection. Our final report brings you the details on how Brazil is being proactive to protect its 200 million internet users from potential AI misuse.
Just last month, Meta Platforms unveiled its groundbreaking AI-driven ad targeting program in Sao Paulo. The atmosphere was charged with excitement as Brazil, with its population of over 200 million and the second largest customer base for WhatsApp after India, was set to be a key player in Meta's ambitious plan. However, just as the curtains were about to rise on the new chapter, an unexpected announcement from Brazil's National Data Protection Authority cast a shadow over the proceedings. The ANPD issued an immediate suspension of Meta's new privacy policy, which was designed to use personal data to train AI systems. The policy, which Meta had touted as a cornerstone of its future innovations, was now at the center of a storm. With ANPD's decision deep-rooted in concerns over privacy, they highlighted the imminent risk of serious and irreparable or difficult-to-repair damage to the fundamental rights of affected holders. In other words, the ANPD feared that Meta's handling of personal data could lead to significant privacy violations. As a result, Meta was ordered to halt the processing of personal data across all its products, including Messenger, Facebook and WhatsApp, until it could comply with new, stricter privacy guidelines. For Meta, the suspension represented a significant setback. The company, led by CEO Mark Zuckerberg, had to scramble to adapt its privacy policy, excluding the use of personal data for AI training. The statement from Meta reflected a sense of disappointment and frustration as the company described the decision as a setback for innovation that would delay the arrival of AI benefits to the people of Brazil. The grand plans for AI-driven advertising had been put on hold, pending further discussions with the ANPD. As if the challenges in Brazil were not enough, Meta also faced scrutiny across the Atlantic. In June, the European Union geared up to potentially impose fines on Meta for violations of the bloc's stringent digital laws. The EU regulators were particularly concerned about Meta's pay and consent models, which they believe could be in breach of user rights and privacy protections. A report indicated that preliminary findings were expected soon, adding another layer of complexity to Meta's regulatory woes. The situation highlighted a broader global tension between the rapid advancement of AI technology and the equally urgent need to protect personal data. In Brazil, the suspension by the ANPD was a clear message that the government prioritized the privacy and fundamental rights of its citizens over the promises of technological innovation. Meanwhile, in Europe, the looming fines underscored the EU's commitment to enforcing digital laws even against the most powerful tech giants. And amid these challenges, Meta found itself at crossroads. For them, the journey ahead would require not only technological prowess, but also a renewed commitment to transparency and user rights. Meta's challenges in Brazil and Europe was a testament to the complex interplay of technology, privacy, and governance in the modern world.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you for tuning in. We hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next week. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.